Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a totally fascinating examination of human routine by looking at Season 1, Episode 7 of The Unbreakable Table, which is beautifully titled Morning Coffee. We're really getting into the architecture of ritual here. So picture this. The opening sequence is steeped in complete, heavy silence. You're just looking at a pitch-black screen. Slowly, very, very faintly, you start to hear the distant sound of a kettle heating up. It's just this soft, familiar hum of water coming to a boil. And then, the first image fades in. The unbreakable table. It's totally untouched, perfectly clean, standing completely alone in the center of a dark room, illuminated by absolutely nothing but this pale morning light filtering through a dusty window. Right out of the gate, the narrator drops this profound opening thought that completely sets the stage. A really quiet voiceover just states, "Every morning begins with a decision. To rise, to continue, to sit down again with the weight of another day." But before words are spoken, before cities awaken, before machines scream into existence, there is coffee. And as those words wash over you, unseen hands carry a single, simple ceramic cup into the frame. The steam is rising off its surface almost like a signal fire from another dimension. The camera just lingers there on the trembling surface of the liquid. The reflections moving inside that black coffee make it look like it's holding memories, Not just caffeine. It is a striking, incredibly atmospheric way to start. Now, you have to appreciate the stark contrast here. Think about the history of the unbreakable table. Historically, this thing has survived absolutely brutal physical tests. We're talking smashing bricks, shattering glass, dropping pumpkins from heights, completely crushing forgotten technology. It has been an arena of pure force and destruction. But today's test is entirely different. They just place the cup at the center of the table, and nothing happens. The narrator makes it explicitly clear. Today, they aren't testing force. They aren't testing destruction. They are testing ritual. It's this massive, unexpected pivot from violent experiments to a quiet, daily human habit. And honestly, it brilliantly illustrates the vast scope of what this table is actually meant to endure. Following that incredible setup, we meet the hosts. They walk into the room so slowly, dressed in these neutral tones, looking almost like workers from some forgotten future. The extreme close-ups in this episode amplify literally every tiny detail. The drip of the brewer, the scrape of ceramic against the table, the morning sun catching the edge of a spoon. One host sits down, just stares at the coffee, doesn't even touch it, and delivers this profound realization. Morning coffee is not just a drink, it's architecture for the mind. The second host nods and adds a kind of heartbreaking observation. For a lot of people, this simple cup is literally the only stable thing left in their lives. So right away, we know we're no longer looking at a beverage. We are looking at a foundational pillar of human sanity and survival. From there, the exploration really kicks into high gear. They rapidly introduce this incredible variety of coffees right onto the unbreakable table. We see a tiny espresso sitting in a thick white cup, then a massive mug with cream swirling through it like storm clouds. We see a scoop of instant coffee sitting in a cracked, sad office mug placed right next to some super expensive pour-over served in pristine, transparent glass. They even bring out the coffees born out of pure necessity, the paper cups from gas stations, the lukewarm coffee from lonely hospital vending machines. Each one of these represents a totally different demographic, a completely different socioeconomic reality, a totally different kind of morning, but they all share this exact same ritual. And the thing is, every single one of those cups tells a deeply personal story. One of the most poignant moments in the whole piece focuses on a construction worker waking up way, way before sunrise. The camera focuses right on his hands. They're rough, they're scratched up, covered in a layer of dust. He carefully places his cup down on the table, and then he just sits there in complete silence for almost a full minute. When he finally does speak, he delivers this heavy, incredibly grounding thought. He says, "When I hold this in the morning, I remember I'm still alive." Wow, it's this incredibly raw moment that takes this everyday physical object and completely recontextualizes it into a literal anchor for human existence. To really understand the mechanics of how this anchor works, the narrator points out that coffee isn't about flavor at all. It acts as a timing mechanism. It's a crucial checkpoint. Think about it. First, entire civilizations begin their daily rhythms around this one drink. Second, cafes are always the first things to open, hours before retail stores even unlock their doors. Third, it is the literal fuel that allows our offices to function. And fourth, It's the catalyst for everything else. Conversations, breakups, massive new ideas, they all emerge over coffee. It is the invisible metronome of human society, dictating the pace and rhythm of our collective day. Next up, the hosts start doing what they do best, experimenting. They start moving the coffee all over different areas of the Unbreakable table. They put it right on the edge, dead in the center, resting incredibly precariously on stacks of books. They even place it beside old radios, Walkmans, balloons, and actual pumpkins left over from the older, crazier episodes. And through all of this chaos, the table remains entirely motionless, totally unwavering. This prompts one of the hosts to just step back and make this brilliant observation. The coffee changes people more than the table changes coffee. It's such a great realization. The true variable in this experiment isn't the physical environment at all. It's our human reaction to the ritual itself. Then the whole thing takes this beautifully strange turn. The lights in the room drop. From above, a projector clicks on, casting these flickering, historical images of humanity directly onto the surface of the table, wrapping right around that completely motionless cup. It's like watching a timeline of existence unfold. We see families drinking coffee in the 1970s. We see late-night diners glowing in neon. We see college students furiously cramming for exams at 3 a.m. and grandmothers pouring cups in steamy, warm kitchens. All of human history, all these disparate timelines, just flickering and dancing across the table. But that cup of coffee in the center? It remains completely still, a timeless constant in a constantly changing world. And this is right where the science beautifully backs up the poetry. About halfway through, they bring in a scientist to explain exactly how caffeine interacts with the human brain. But her explanation takes this fascinating shift away from neurochemistry and straight into pure philosophy. She defines this concept of an emotional anchor, essentially a symbolic restart button for the human mind. She argues it's not because the dark liquid itself is inherently magical, right? It's because repetition becomes identity. The act of doing this one small thing every single day without fail fundamentally anchors who we are. Of course, they still have to put the table through intense physical tests with the liquid itself. They place boiling, extremely hot coffee directly onto the surface. Then they completely flip it and switch to freezing iced coffee, just dripping with condensation. They even intentionally knock cups over, allowing the coffee to flow across the surface like these dark little rivers. But as this happens, the narrator whispers a really profound truth. While some tables would warp under the pressure, or crack from the extreme heat, or stain permanently from the spills, the Unbreakable table accepts every single version of the morning. It just holds everything completely without judgment or failure. Then, this soft, minimal piano music starts swelling up, mixed with the distant sounds of a waking city. And we get this rapid-fire, almost cinematic montage of raw human moments. And they are all anchored by a simple cup. We see morning coffee sitting beside rain-covered windows and glowing laptops. We see it sitting there untouched during really bitter arguments. We see it being gripped tightly during exhausted night shifts, when morning definitely doesn't mean sunrise anymore. We see the cup after funerals, just heavy with grief, and before weddings, buzzing with nervous joy. By this point in the explainer, it completely stops feeling like a physical experiment. It feels like a beautiful documentary about humanity itself. As we get near the end, the camera pulls off this gorgeous, sweeping, circular shot all the way around the Unbreakable table. And the surface isn't empty anymore. It is completely covered in dozens and dozens of coffee cups. All different shapes, different sizes, representing entirely different cultures and lives. Yet, when you look at them all together, they form something incredible. It's literally a map of human routine. All of our disparate, chaotic, messy lives beautifully mapped out through the exact same ceramic vessels. Building right up to the finale, one of the hosts finally reaches out. He picks up that very first original cup that they placed at the start of the experiment, and he takes a drink. He closes his eyes, just absorbing the moment, and simply says, "This tastes like continuation." The second host laughs quietly at how abstract that is, and asks a really poignant question. What does continuation taste like? There is a long, highly strategic pause here. You can feel the weight of the entire experiment hanging in the air before the host delivers this perfect three-word answer. Warm, bitter, necessary. Just think about how perfectly that encapsulates not just the literal taste of black coffee, but the very essence of keeping going, of waking up and facing another day. It isn't always sweet. In fact, it's often bitter, but it is fundamentally, undeniably necessary. This whole journey culminates in the narrator's final reflection, which draws a beautiful contrast between two very different types of strength. On one hand, you have loud strength. That's what people usually think of, right? Steel beams, roaring engines, massive explosions, literally the very things this table used to be tested against. But on the other hand, we have quiet strength. Real strength is a person waking up again after a terribly difficult night. It's a hand reaching out for a familiar cup. It's a table waiting, patiently, holding that cup, every single morning, entirely without fail. As the lights in the room turn off one by one, leaving only the steam illuminated by the expanding sunlight, we are left to ponder the ultimate takeaway of this brilliant source material. Is our greatest strength found not in what we can break, but in what we quietly repeat every single morning? It's a really powerful thought to carry with you the next time you sit down with your own morning cup. As the sound of a spoon softly tapping the side of a ceramic mug fades to black, I'll leave you to think about your own daily anchors. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.